All right. So tonight is May 17th, 2021. This is the Historic Preservation Commission meeting, and we're going to call it to order. If we can have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Keller.
I'm here.
Commissioner Dunlap.
Yes.
Commissioner Berg.
Present.
Chair Haley.
Yes, here. All right. I'm going to read through our electronic meeting procedure. All commissioners will be on video. Commissioners and staff will be asked to click raise hand when they wish to speak. The chair will call on individuals to speak. Commissioners and staff are asked to keep their microphones muted until called upon. Members of the public will be muted during presentations and commissioner discussion. For public participation, the public may join the meeting from a computer or dial in by phone. All public members are muted upon entry. To make comment during public comment segments, if you're on a computer, click the raise hand button or icon. It is either in the participant panel on the right of your screen or in the control panel at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You may have to hover over that area to see it. By phone, you can hit *9 to raise your hand. The chair will call on those with raised hands individually. You will be unmuted when called upon. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. All right, and then we have our agenda. Do we any changes or amendments for that? And if not, we'll motion to approve.
I would move to approve our agenda.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. Yes.
Aye. All right, agenda is approved. We have our minutes from our last meeting, April 19th. Any changes or comments on those? And if not, we can have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, none opposed. And then any public comments on our agenda this evening that are not on the agenda? I don't see any. We'll move to our first probable cause determination for 612 Grand Avenue. We'll have a staff presentation.
Thank you, Chair Haley. Let me go ahead and pull up my screen. Just making sure that everybody can see that okay. Excellent. Whoops, too soon. All right, so good evening, everyone. Good to see you again. So the first item before you this evening is a probable cause determination to find cause for designation for 612 Grant Avenue. So the subject property is located near the corner of Pine Street and Grant Avenue. So as you can see it before your screen there, it's outlined in the dashed white. You can see that it's outlined in blue, or I should say highlighted in blue. That is because this property is already landmarked. So as it was discussed in the packet, but I'll discuss a little more here this evening and further down in the presentation. So the 612 Grant was landmarked in 2012. And so at that particular time, the enabling resolutions did not require an HSA or a historic structure assessment prior to either landmarking or grant requests. So that's typically how we see it today, probable cause, landmarking, and or grants. So because of that, they don't have an HSA on file or never received funds to get one. So they are seeking the probable cause or put in the probable cause application in order to move forward with the HSA and the potential HSA funds. So as indicated, whoops, too far there, sorry. As you can see here in these two photos before you, on the left-hand side is the Boulder County Assessor's photo from about 1948. And then on the right-hand side, that photo would be present day. So you can see largely the same form with some additions and changes that we'll get into. So these are some more current photos. As you can see on the left, again, just another front elevation portion with some, if you can kind of see detailed on the left-hand side, some original wood paneling remains, some of the shingling, the decorative shingling in the gable remains as well. So it's kind of a good photo of that. And then on the right-hand side is a detailed photo or a close-up photo of the details, but then showing that it was indeed granted a landmark status as the Hibbler House there from 2012. So just a few photos there. Again, just a little more background as I noted somewhat so far. So this was landmarked by resolution number 24 in 2012. And then again, through the current, so again, this 2019, our current enabling resolution, that's where it says homes who would like to do the HSA funds would have to, or apply for a grant, would need to go through the HSA or probable cause determination. So that's why we're here before you tonight, even though it's already landmarked. And again, even though it is already landmarked, as part of this process, as part of the probable cause application, and then staff report to you, we'll still go through those criteria and we can talk about them. You can determine if they're still in existence and those sorts of things tonight. So from there, we'll look at the same things we typically do with the probable cause. So we'll start with if it's over 50 years old or not. And so certainly with being constructed circa 1905 to 1909, it makes it approximately 116 years old. Meeting that, again, there's the same circa 1948, 1950 photo on the right-hand side. Moving forward to our architectural significance, Steph believes certainly that the site exemplifies specific elements of an architectural style or period, being that sort of folk Victorian one-story home that was seen readily throughout Louisville at the time. It has been modified over the years, including that shed dormer, which I'll go back to just for a moment so you can see it a little bit better. So that when I say shed dormer, that's that piece right there. I'm kind of circling if you can see my mouse, but up on the left-hand side of the photo. So that would be a newer addition, certainly. But nonetheless, keeping some of the same form and feeling as it did originally, architecturally speaking. For social significance, the house exemplifies the cultural and social heritage of the community, specifically through strong ties to the Hibbler family and then the DeFrancia family as well, who the two of them in total owned the house for about 72 years total. So helping it tied, the home also was tied to the Louisville coal mining past, as it's believed that the Hibblers rented out the property to local miners from the Acme mine. So not only two longstanding families in one location, but also some ties to a local mine in our community here. And then also the social history, the history report of this did show that it does have some ties to previous operators of the Rex Theater. So ties there as well in terms of history. Moving to its physical integrity, it continues to remain in its original location. Many of the original design features and materials remain. As I noted, some of the majority of the siding is still the same and things like that. And then the architectural style speak to the cultural characteristics of Louisville as well, with similar bungalows or kind of one-story homes built for mine workers and other early residents seen across the city. And this would speak to that in the folk kind of Victorian vernacular style that it is. Moving to briefly the master plan, you can see that here on this slide, the project meets the goals of goal number 3 and goal number 5 of our preservation master plan as adopted in 2015. And so, therefore, staff recommends that the HPC finds their probable cause for 612 Grant Avenue under the criteria in the section of the Louisville Municipal Code is laid out there on the slide, making the property eligible for the cost of a historic structure assessment. At this time, the current maximum amount available for a residential HSA is $4,000. So at this time, you may, by motion, approve or deny the finding of probable cause. And then I'm here for any questions if you were to have them.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for staff? So they couldn't just apply for the HSA, like we have to go through a probable cause because it wasn't in effect back then. Is that what we're doing?
And also, right, so that they could receive the fund should they wish. Yep. So it's like that first step now is how we have it laid out as probable cause. And I don't want to frame it this way, but since they skipped it, since they didn't have to do it to landmark before, they're coming back to do it. Yep.
Okay. Any questions for staff? All right, does the applicant want to talk or?
Sure. Good evening. Good evening, commissioners. This is Andy Johnson with DAJ Design at 922A Main Street. Nice to see you this evening. I'm joined by Rand and Andrea, who are the current owners of the property at 612 Grant. And that was a great presentation, really good history of the property. It's already landmarked. So this is a little bit of a housekeeping step just to allow the current owners to be able to start making some improvements based on historic preservation principles to the home. And since that wasn't done by the previous owner who started this process, they're looking to complete that at this time. So I'm more than happy to be available for any questions if there are any, but I think really this is just kind of a formality.
Right. Okay, does anyone have any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Any comments from the public? I don't see any. So we'll bring it back for discussion. So I feel like this is pretty straightforward, especially since they're already landmarked. So they obviously qualify and meet our standards for being 50 years or older, having the social significance and architectural integrity. So yeah, it sounds like more just a formality than anything. Does anyone have anything else or any differing opinions?
Yes, I guess I have a question. I appreciate them moving or doing the structural assessment to continue to do historic preservation, because that's really what we want us to support. After hearing the detailed look at the legalities of what we do moving forward, though, I wonder about, I guess maybe it should be just called an HSA and not a probable cause again, because that is part of our process, and to duplicate that, I guess I would favor the funding of an HSA to support this structure. It's a fine addition to Louisville. But then I think we start to go down the path of additional funding, grants. Are we going to get requests for grants for the same structure that has already received grants, or presumably, under the new guidelines? Because I think that our grant process allows for funds for something that happened within 5 years. So, you could, if there were something that you were doing in the future or something retroactive, you could apply for grant funding. But since the landmarking was done 10 years ago, or I can't remember exactly, I guess we haven't seen a request yet, but I think it would be good for us to decide before we get a request, and we could get others, for funding or grant funding for something that's already received grant funding, that we should decide how to deal with that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think this structure has received any grant funding at this point.
That's correct. So at this time, it got its landmark bonus, of course, for landmarking, but we went through the files and we don't see that any monies for the HSA specifically was ever disseminated. So they never received the funding in which they could have been gotten, and so they're coming back they're able to request this tonight because they haven't received that before.
Would the grant funding that was in place at the time apply, or the current?
That's a good question. So in terms of grants for work, there is specific language in the current enabling resolution
Mhm.
that says if it's grant money, so in terms of grant projects, those working on the physical house, there's specific language in there that talks about they would be able to have the funds received only at the time in which they landmark. So here, 2012, that would sort of put them in that window. In terms of the HSA, there's also specific language in our current resolution that says if they never received an HSA prior, this resolution says they could get up to the maximum amount current. So they are able to go back and get the 4,000, which is available now, even though they were landmarked in 2012. However, if they came back with a project, that's where there is specific language to say you would be able to get 2012 amounts. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there is specific language in there that would allow them today to come back for the 4,000 for the HSA, but some different levels for the grants themselves.
Okay. Thanks.
Right.
Mhm.
It is a good point, Gary, because for sure the grant amounts follow the house, not the owner. So just
Yeah.
because it has a new owner doesn't mean they get new grants. So
And really follows the process, the resolution that occurred 10 years ago or 9 years ago. Yeah.
right. Are there any other thoughts or opinions on this?
Yeah, I just have a quick one. I understand the previous and now the current funding levels are different, and that's a different can of worms. But as far as the HSA goes, since it was never done and it's landmarked, I look at this as an insurance policy. I mean, they may be underlying foundation issues that they don't know about because it was never done. So I think it would be in the best interest of the city to have an HSA done just to see if there's anything out there that could endanger this landmark. That's it.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah, I think Kim was pretty clear about what step leads to what, but just we should make sure that redoing the probable cause, which I guess was done, is allowable without, I don't know, just creating a resolution that conflicts with the first one.
Mm-hmm. So you're concerned that the probable cause will conflict with the landmark resolution? Is that what you're saying?
But yeah, I think your or somebody's initial statement that the HSA to be done is a good thing. That maybe it wouldn't be a new probable cause because that could set some chain of events that led to funding or a modern resolution that conflicts with the prior resolution. Does that make sense?
And just to confirm, no resolution comes out of the probable cause, that this vote tonight would just enable them to get up to the 4,000. So directly speaking to kind of a resolution coming forth, that wouldn't happen this evening. This would just be the vote to allow them to have access to the 4,000.
Is the HSA and probable cause don't have a resolution or normally? I think
Correct.
do.
They typically do not. Landmarking grants certainly do, but at the HSA stage or this probable cause stage, there's no resolution drafted. It just allows them to have those funds.
Okay.
Yeah, they're good questions because I don't think we've done this before. So those are good questions, Gary. So, yeah.
And I'm more concerned about the next 30. Anyway,
About the what? The
the
next.
next 30
Um,
requests. Anyway.
right. Well, if there's previous landmarked homes that didn't receive their HSA, they're still entitled to it. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. They're entitled, they just didn't do it at the time. So, yeah, but I think too, that's why we try to encourage that they do it when they landmark or during the probable cause process, so that we avoid the situation where it's
Yeah.
in the
Okay.
future. So, yeah. But, all right, would anyone like to make a motion, or do we need to deliberate anymore?
You're
Make
muted.
a motion to approve the application for probable cause determination for an HSA for 612 Grant Avenue.
I'll second that.
All right, we'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Keller,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Chair Haley.
Yes. All right. That was approved. Then our next item. Sorry, I'm getting back in my agenda. The next one is also a probable cause determination for 829 Lincoln Avenue, and we'll have another staff report.
Thank you, Chair Haley. So yes, our the next item before you this evening is another probable cause determination to find cause, pardon me, for designation for 829 Lincoln Avenue. The subject property is located. The subject property is located on the western side of Lincoln Avenue, outlined there in the dashed white line, near the corner of Lincoln and Walnut Street. On the left-hand side, you can see a little more generalized map of it, located overall in Old Town. And then here are a few photos to give you some context. On the left-hand side would be the photo from about 1930. You can see this one is from the Louisville Historical Museum, so a little earlier than our typical assessor cards. And then on the right-hand side would be a current day photo. I think this one in particular is from 2013, but you can see that it still looks like that at the present. A few more photos, again, the left-hand side of the east elevation, and then on the right-hand side, you can see some, typically still the front facade, but you can see some porch detail and some of the siding detail on there as well. So this one comes before you as more of a typical probable cause that you would see. So we will, just as a reminder, talk a little bit about what this would look like. So, you know, what you'd be looking for moving forward, or the potential landmarking stage to keep in mind certainly would be if the property is at least 50 years old, and if they meet criteria set forth in our code, which would look at the normal things: architectural significance, the social history significance, and the physical integrity. So moving forward to those, to talk about those a little bit. On the right-hand side, to give a little context, this is from the staff report, but to provide some here this evening, this is John Balent's baseball team. So the Balents weren't the primary or the most long-standing kind of residents of the home, but it is believed that John Balent built the house. So just wanted to give a little context to the photo there. But back to the criteria itself, 829 Lincoln Avenue was constructed in about 1900, so that makes it about approximately 121 years old, certainly meeting the 50-year threshold eligibility criteria. In terms of architectural significance, like many homes of the period, it's a folk Victorian, just like the one we looked at before. And so that style in particular is associated with the Louisville area, with so many other one-story folk Victorians exhibited in and around Old Town as well. So some of the determining features there would be sort of, as you see, I'll go back to give you some. If on the left-hand side in particular, you can see the kind of gable, the front-facing gable is pretty common. Sometimes you see it as a gable and wing, or in this case, you know, a gable and then a projecting smaller gable in the front, like you see before you. So this is pretty standard of that kind of vernacular form. In terms of its social significance, as I mentioned, John Balent, who's believed to have built the home, and the property has ties to one of Louisville's prominent pardon me, let me go back. I skipped a sentence. So John Blunt is believed to build the house, as I mentioned, but the home itself is also has ties to one of Louisville's prominent saloon operators, as well as some of the city's baseball heritage. So as you can see from the photo before. Since then, the majority of the ownership has stayed in the family line of tonight's applicants, with totaling about nearly 80 years. So from about 1940 until today. And then with these 2 points, the deep and we feel constant ties to the community that this home has had is strong and certainly exemplifies the cultural and social heritage criteria. For its physical integrity specifically, we believe it retains a high level of its historic integrity. Although there have been some changes made over the years, one of the more obvious ones or prominent ones you could see is it has been sort of reclad with that different siding, but certainly the bones, the form, the feeling, the association, its location, its setting, all those sorts of physical aspects of historic integrity certainly remain. And so we do feel that there is, strong, it meets the criteria for the physical integrity quite well. In terms of preservation master plan, as many do, this one meets goal 3 and goal 5 and the objectives therein. And so therefore staff would recommend that the HPC finds there is probable cause for landmarking 829 Lincoln Avenue under the criteria before you of the Louisville Municipal Code, making the property eligible for the cost of a historic structure assessment. The maximum at this time, of course, is $4,000 for a residential HSA, and you may by motion approve or deny the finding of probable cause. And I'm here for any questions.
All right, any questions for staff? All right, I think we're good on questions. Is the applicant here? Is that Diane? All right, would you like to speak to us tonight? You're welcome to if you'd like to. And just state your name and address for us. And we might have to unmute you. Oh, you.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yeah,
Am I
you
okay?
are.
Okay, I'm Diane Marino and I'm the owner of 829 Lincoln Avenue. I said it's been in my family for about 80 years. My grandparents moved here from Little Italy, where my grandfather was born. My grandmother was from a family in Lafayette. So my grandfather was a coal miner and worked in mines until they shut down in the 1950s. And so we've been here continually. My grandmother was very much, she liked to keep things current. So when they came through town with the siding and windows, it sort of happened by accident, but there it was. My grandfather signed papers he shouldn't have, but she loved the picture windows. So there you go. I've never thought it looked quite right because the windows just don't look right, but not sure what to do about that. I guess we'll find out. But really the house hasn't been added on or changed at all. Front porch is pretty easily fixed. The back part of the house originally did not have a bathroom, so that part actually has a little different siding. So it looks a little bit different, but that's really the only changes that have been made. I added a garage and a patio. That's it. Yeah. Do you have any
That's
questions for
incredible.
me? Okay.
So you actually live in the house right now?
I do. Yeah, I consider it the family home. I've had family members living with me. I currently have a sister living with me. I've had nephews and nieces living here off and on. So yeah, I consider it the whole family's home.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, and I feel like it's just rare for the family to still live in the house too.
Yeah.
Like a family member actually live in the house. So that's
Yeah.
really amazing. Pretty special. Does anyone have any questions for Diane? All right. Thank you for being here this evening, and we'll see if there's any public comment. And I don't see any. So we'll bring it back for discussion. And again, this is for probable cause, so it needs to meet our 3 criteria. So it's definitely 50 years or older. It's maintained its architectural integrity and also has very strong social significance, especially as the family is still living in the home. So I think too the changes that were made are minimal, and if for any reason you decided, Diane, to ever revert back, you could pretty easily probably replace the window or take the siding off or whatever. And so yeah, so I think those are not anything that would be detrimental to the architectural integrity. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add about it?
Are you moving to the commission discussion time?
So we already did, yes. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah, I checked for public comment and we brought it back. So
okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Well, I really appreciate the history of the house and the interest in the historic preservation of it, because it is part of the very old Louisville that we would like to preserve. And the statement on the homeowner's application was a desire to maybe replace the windows and siding with more like the original. And I love to support that idea. I'm not sure how that how we bring support to that, other than we could just say yes to it. But in a more general sense, people with a home of that age could say that that asbestos sightings from the 60s were historical
Yeah.
also by our guidelines.
Mhm.
And I'd much rather support the 1900 or the 1930 picture of the porch detailing and the siding. I guess I'm just not asking about this particular property, but how in general we might support that. We're going to have a property we discuss in a little later where we have sort of the same question.
Mhm.
Anyway,
As far as newer materials being social,
Yeah.
being architecturally significant.
and,
right?
and where it's not strictly defined in the Department of Interior standards, how we can make it most compatible with the old town Louisville.
Mhm.
Anyway, food for
Yeah.
thought.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion for us? Or does anyone have any conflicting opinions before we make a motion?
I would move that we approve the probable cause request for 829 Lincoln.
All right,
I would second that motion.
all right, and we'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Commissioner Keller,
Yes.
Chair Haley.
Yes. All right, so we look forward to you having the HSA done and hopefully moving forward with the landmark. So thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
That's really exciting.
Very excited. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
All right. So our next, we're finished with the probable causes and hearings. We have items from staff.
Hello again. Thank you, Chair Haley. Let me share my screen one more time here. So I do have a few updates for you this evening. You see before you one, it would be a subcommittee update. This one is from an alteration certificate update for 500 grant. So I've added the photo on the right-hand side just so you can see it a little bit. This is a Google screenshot of it. But the subcommittee did release a permit to replace a portion of the siding that existed on the original section of the home. So in the photo before you, can you guys see my mouse when I move it over the screen? Okay, good. So I'm kind of circling my mouse over the portion of this property that was original. Originally, it was essentially just a rectangle on the lot, and you could see over time, particularly on the left-hand side, modern additions have been added. I believe these were in the 90s, but they could be a little earlier. And then on the right-hand side, there are, you can see where my mouse is now, that's an addition as well. So it's certain, and then there's a larger addition in the back that you can't quite see from this particular photo, but a number of additions have been made nonetheless. So the alterations and many additions have been made previously, as you could see on the screen before you. And so the subcommittee felt the proposed siding would not affect the ability of the home to be landmarked. That might have already kind of happened essentially. The homeowner, for the record, here the homeowner, we did talk to them about landmarking and what that could look like and all those sorts of choices, but ultimately they went with the permit and the subcommittee reviewed it. And so we did release it. There's no demolition or other landmarking updates as you saw from the staff memo in the packet, so I don't have those. But we do have, Rob is with us again this evening, Director Zuccaro, and so he has two updates quick on 950 Spruce. And so that was mentioned in the packet. There was a blurb about it in the staff report, and then I'll leave it to him. And Rob, I'm happy to kind of go through, just tell me when to change slides if you need it.
Sure, yeah, just real quick, just an update on this project that you provided a referral for. It's going to Planning Commission, hopefully this week. But the architect did make some changes to the architecture. So on the left side, you can see the current proposal, and on the right side, you can see the proposal that you all reviewed. So the changes were they were in response to some of staff's comments about the Old Town overlay standards to try to create that more substantial 1- and 2-story facade with a step-backed 3rd story, and then having kind of heavier, coarser materials such as brick on the ground floor, which were all design standard, downtown design standard. So we were just giving you an update on this as it's going through the project. Going through the process. So see if you had any questions about how it's evolved.
Yeah, I feel like that does a better job of making it not feel as like just breaking it down a little more. So that's a good improvement. I don't have any questions. Anyone else have any questions specifically? Yeah, thanks for the update.
Yep, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. And then before I move on to the update table that I had listed on the agenda as well, just since it's on the same slideshow here, I'll just share this is our upcoming meeting schedule. So thank you all for coming early today. I know that made this meeting a little bit longer, but typical 6:30. As you can see, the other thing I'll note, and not the dates, but that they're still virtual. That's still kind of ongoing of when that would come back to in person. So at this time, we'll just continue to plan on virtual for the time being. And I'll certainly update you as that might change and as commissions might come back in person and that sort of thing, those sorts of things. So for now, we'll continue with, you can see through August, I've listed virtual. It might be earlier than that, I'm not sure, but virtual for now is what we'll kind of count on. So I'll keep you up to date and apprised on that as well, of course. And then, yes.
The city council is meeting tomorrow, I think, on that subject or on the closures. So we might ask, is anybody in our group not vaccinated?
Yeah, I don't think we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but it matters. If we could probably legitimately ask the city council when we can meet. Okay.
Yep, and once we get kind of okay for people to even come back into meetings, then we can start figuring those things out as well. Yep.
The thing is, they're meeting, I believe, on that subject tomorrow. But
I believe so. I know it's for certain the masks, but I'm not sure all the details in terms of meetings and those sorts of things as well.
Right, yeah, my understanding is tomorrow's to talk about the mask ordinance, maybe some other things, but like board and commission and city council meetings, I think is slated for a July discussion.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zoom a little longer.
Yeah, right.
All right. And then if it's all right with Chair Haley, I can also bring up the table. Great.
Yep.
I didn't want to move forward too much on that. So before you, this is something that I believe we talked about at my first meeting. So that would have been the February meeting where in direct relation with some of the goals that you've set forth for the year, bringing back a table as it's relevant of updates. So what are the goals that we're looking at would be on the left-hand side there. And then sort of who's kind of the owner of the goal. Sometimes it's staff, sometimes it's all of us. And then kind of where those are at. So there's 2 pages here, so I'll have to scroll down, but I have brought forward an updated table. This isn't all of the goals, I'll note, that you had all listed. These are just some of the ones that we've been working on that have been in the works or that we just have updates on. So that's the table before you. This can change if you don't like this. If you'd like a different way of presenting, we can always do it differently. But for now, I do have the table. And so I'll start with the top at the historic structure assessment process. You can see some of the description there. In the biggest block under description, that's sort of a recap of what we had talked about last meeting. Certainly, some really my duties of updating those. And then I know we talked about some specific updates and some changes to the materials itself. So I'll have to do a little more of that to get it in the packet, in the info packet that we've talked about, but I plan to bring that to you in more detail in June so we can make sure. I think tonight is a good example of 2 more probable causes after the few we've had that I can make sure that I certainly in my talk with some of the applicants that you approved this evening, making sure they know that we might be looking for, an itemized receipt or potentially some of the more specific items we've talked about in the past that just haven't codified in the info packet yet. So I'll make sure to keep that in mind even with these applicants and then move forward with some of the other information we talked about from last meeting as well. Any questions on that before I breeze past it too quickly? Oh, I think you're on mute.
That's great that we got the mailers out. That's really good.
Yes, yeah. So I'll actually just scroll down to that quick and then scroll back up since we're on that. So you could see outreach postcards at I believe it should be the top of your screen now. So that was, I know that something that had been worked on by my predecessor. And so we were able to, I'm sure a number of you probably received them, I'd guess, but we were able to put a postcard out, a nice mailer about the updates in 2019. So it was a nice little postcard that went out to Old Town residents. We could certainly do another run, and we have extras that we could select others, but for now went to Old Town residents primarily to let them know of the funding increase. And I can say that we've already received a few inquiries about related to the postcard about the funding increase and about the preservation fund. So it's already done its job. So that's very nice. That went out May 11th, and by me hearing some calls and emails, it looks like they're already landing in mailboxes as of this weekend. So yes, yeah. Since we're still here on this page, I'll just talk a little bit about the completing the historic survey project. So that's just one of the goals. So that back in April, I believe it was about mid-April, we did contact thanks to Bridget's work, going through all of those and researching those. She had about 10 left, and we actually just we had a good bulk comment. She had a number of bulk comments, and we sent those back to Paleo West. Since that mid-April kind of touchstone, we haven't heard back from them, so we will see where they're at. We'll follow up here shortly, and then once they're done, we'll be able to move forward with the kind of final review and then the presentations, of which you all be included on that. So the presentation will come to you as well, and you can learn more about that project if maybe it started before you, or just remind yourself, get the details, see what the project outcome was. As a reminder, what the project will, the deliverables, broadly speaking, are a number of survey forms and then a broader narrative or kind of a history. So like almost, like we have of the residential and other and commercial, other narratives that we have too. So we have that moving forward. And then to scroll back up, to just finish the last two blocks here, the last two line items here, outreach coloring book choices and then quotes. I'll start with the quotes, which is down below. We did send them, staff sent out an email request to 8 artists just to say, this is the type of project we're looking to do. That initial call in my email was directly based on our conversation last month. So here's how we would like to break it up. We would like to see the drawings. We would typically have the drawings come back and then do the narrative, all those sorts of things we talked about last month. So at the writing of the update or of the memo, the staff report for this evening, you can see we've had 3 already. So already have a good amount in return from the 8. So that feeling good about that. And then moving to the column up one more, you can see the choices. Last meeting we talked about coming back with about 10 to 15, maybe even 20 specific choices throughout Louisville to look at, to think if we would like them to be a part of the book, if we would like to go back and research more, all those sorts of things. So at this point, no update from staff on that. So I apologize, I don't have the list this evening, but I will have that also for June's meeting. So as a reminder, we talked about getting a list of residential properties, few commercial, even a couple of the mines, and then maybe some of our agricultural properties or structures. So you'll see that list come before you again in June. We can kind of look through, see what we like, see what we don't, see what you think you would like to see in the book, go back to the drawing board. That will give you those sorts of choices. And then by that time, we should have a nice kind of selection or grouping of potential artists as well. So those are the updates from the table. And I'll certainly take comments on if you liked that format of distribution. If you wanted something different, I'm happy to take that as well as any questions you might have too.
Yeah, I have a question regarding those drawings or the potential subjects for the coloring book. I don't mean to push you on time because a month might be what it takes to get those. But is there any strong reason those would have to be presented at one of our meetings next June? Because then that would mean that we probably couldn't discuss them till July and then begin the project till August, sort of the way we've been working. So if you happen to have those in a couple of weeks, maybe you're able to distribute them.
Sure. And then if you've all thought of some too that have come to your mind, for you, this is, I think, needs to be in the book, certainly let me know on that as well. And we can make sure, okay, this, I really think, 1, 2, 3, Main Street has to be in here, and then we can look at that too. So, yep,
Okay.
we can do that too. And the other point or question I suppose I'll ask too on that is if you'd like to set up some sort of subcommittee, if you prefer to kind of always tackle it here at the full commission meeting, it would be up to you that you could kind of talk about tonight. But the subcommittee, that's where we could look at these artists more specifically or look at the addresses more specifically, those sorts of things, and then bring it back to the full commission just to sort of update them essentially, or have them have the final say. It would be up to you as well. So that's certainly something that would be a mechanism you could use should you wish, or if you'd like everybody here together, it's certainly your choice.
Do you want to get a subcommittee, or do you want to continue working on it as a full commission until we get a little more detail? How does everyone feel about that? I can go either way.
I think in the interest of progress, a subcommittee would be good.
Okay. Do you want to continue on that subcommittee, Gary?
Not necessarily. I feel like I have my toe in that subject so much that I don't want to bias it. But I'm, on the other hand, I would like to see it move forward, and I'm glad to put in the time to help.
Okay.
What do you all think?
Yeah, I'm happy to be on the. Go ahead, Chrissy.
So if we feel like a subcommittee might make this more efficient, then I'd be happy to serve on that subcommittee. Yeah.
Gary, do you want Chrissy and I to take it? Do you want us to?
Why don't you choose? If you think, I've had too much involvement in it with the particular, take it, or I'm glad to help on it too.
Yeah, you're welcome. I don't necessarily think that you,
Okay.
yeah, I don't want to take it from any means. So if you want to stay on it, that's totally fine.
Okay. I think the bidding process that the city's doing, is going to eliminate some of that bias there, I hope.
Mhm.
So, yeah, okay. We'll be
Okay.
a subcommittee, I guess.
Okay.
Is that okay, Chrissy?
Yeah, happy to.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So would we, Kim, simply communicate through you to set up some times that work for Gary and I?
Exactly. Yep. I can reach out. What I'll do is I'll reach out tomorrow just as a follow up to this evening, and then we can figure out what that looks like and how we want to meet and that sort of stuff.
Great.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So does all the staff items?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I have one more. I apologize. I did include as part of the packet, and that's as part of the staff update. I had included a bingo card. The bingo card.
Right.
Let me know if you didn't see it. I can send it to you as a single PDF. I know that Chrissy knows it well. They handed it out at the May 8th Lenses on Louisville. So I don't know if you completed it. No spoiler alerts to the rest of the group, but it is a nice card, and you and your family can do it. It's a nice way to kind of go around the different areas near downtown, and you can mark off things that you might see on the bingo card. So there's like a painted sign is one, the building at the museum is one, and it's a fun exercise. They'll hand them out May 22nd, the next Lenses on Louisville, this upcoming weekend. But again, if you know anybody who wants it and you would like to share it, just let me know and I can send it to you as well.
Really fun. That's good. How was the Lens on Louisville? How did it go?
Oh, well, yeah.
I
So
think you had like 30 participants, right?
That's good.
And people asking about the HPC or the preservation program.
Nice. That's awesome. We can probably talk about that in our update from commission members. We'll move on to the next. Is that all we need from staff? Kim,
Yes,
was
thank
that-
you.
Awesome. All right. Did you want to talk, Gary and Chrissy, any more about the Lens on Louisville as a commission update?
sure. Yeah, I think the museum staff can speak more in depth about it, I'm sure, but it seemed like a success from the get-go. Lots of people showed up eager to participate with nice, cameras in hand. And museum staff had a table set up where people were assigned a certain street or neighborhood to go take pictures of. They got a nice tutorial. And as Gary said, I think some people were in groups or, with partners, but I think even with that considered, there were probably at least around 23 or so people who took, so 23 separate neighborhoods probably assigned. And then obviously it's happening again this Saturday. So I know this Saturday the focus is more a miners field, but not all the neighborhoods were taken 2 weeks ago, so I'm sure they'll probably spread. They're saying they'll spread people back out over there. But there's just a lot of enthusiasm, which was great for Lenses on Louisville.
That's awesome. Has anyone volunteered for this weekend? Do we have anyone signed up, Kim, to help you?
We have Andrea so far. So yep, we have one.
Great.
I think she said she might have something last minute, but she did volunteer. So yep, I have one right now. And I get it. It's a Saturdays, but if you would like to join me, just shoot me an email, and I would be happy to sit with you.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, thank you, Chrissy and Gary, for being there and doing that. And Kim. That's really, it's like makes the biggest impression is when we have that face-to-face contact with people. So it does make a big difference. So
Yeah, and Kim had some really great handouts at our table to inform community members, and community members stopped by, some new community members, some former HPC commission members, just to kind of see what we're doing. So it was nice. It's nice to kind of run the gamut of people stopping by our table.
right, that's awesome. Cool. Chrissy, did you want to talk about your Historical Commission.
Sure.
That last month.
Yeah, so in March, I think it was now, I attended the Historical Museum Commission Zoom call, and they discussed kind of four major things. They did some museum updates, talked about some museum offerings, and some donated items that are come their way, and then also the Pioneer Awards. So just kind of go through those quickly. Just some updates from the museum. The Trot Downer miners' cabins are being moved. So the museum website is going to have information on that and the history of the cabins, and pictures will be taken when they're moved to mark that historical occasion as well. And historic preservation funds were used for that, which is nice. They talked about the museum expansion, which is still, they said, likely 2 or 3 years out, because that's the next time the city will be able to ask for funds once again from residents to fund an expansion. They did talk about reopening plans, which are likely some point in May, hoping to allow walk-in patrons. I think that's probably more likely now based on what happens at the meeting, the city council meeting tomorrow, and the CDC recommendations. So they're hoping to change those hours, post those on the door, advertise those to get more people in. There's also talk about expanding the hours for summer to maybe have museum staff there in the evening at least one night a week, and there's discussion of what night that might be. So I think that's all things to look forward to and see where that goes with expanded hours. With museum offerings, right here, oh, right, the lenses on Louisville, obviously, the scavenger hunt bingo card. There's 2 walking tours coming up this summer. One is on Frenchtown, and I missed what the other one was on. So I'm not sure if anybody here knows what the other walking tour is on. They have the take and make kits through the library still happening, which have been pretty popular. So that will continue this summer. And then the 35th anniversary of the museum is coming this August, I believe. But somebody can correct me if I'm wrong about that. And they're planning things for that. So we talked about that a little bit, just casually at Lenses on Louisville. So I'm sure probably the next meeting we'll talk more about what's coming for the 35th anniversary.
Wow, 35.
Yeah. Some donated items came the way of the museum. The Rex Theater's ladies and men's lighted restroom signs, which are Art Deco, were donated. That's exciting. There were some downtown photos from the 90s that were donated. There was a blue parrot. The blue parrot stained glass window is now in front of the museum. So I did see that there the other day, which is nice. And then Keith donated some floorboard nails from his Jefferson Ave home. So thank you, Keith.
Yeah, they're really old.
When are they from?
Where are they from?
Or what time period?
Oh, shoot. It was the hallway going into the bathroom. So I'm guessing the 1960s, maybe.
Okay, cool.
It was the original
Yeah.
floorboards.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. So with the museum opening more, we'll have to all go see these exciting things.
there you go.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, like the restroom signs, like who's had these all these years and what made them? So I'm like, I'm ready to
Good
donate
question.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty fun. Cool. Yeah, thanks for going.
Actually,
Where,
one more thing I will mention.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So they did talk about also the Pioneer Awards, and there were 2 topics there. The first was how to celebrate the 2020 winner because of COVID that wasn't able to happen. And I wasn't aware, I don't know if you guys are, that Keith was the 2020 Pioneer Award winner.
Oh,
So
wow.
congratulations, Keith.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was cool. So yeah, I'm sure they're reaching out to you for some sort of worthwhile celebration. Yeah. And then the second discussion was what to do about 2021. So I think typically it's been one person, but they're thinking for 2021, there was talk of maybe just honoring all Louisville residents or honoring first responders. The conversation went lots of different ways, so I'm sure that will be revisited, but they didn't want to skip a year. This is all obviously historically recorded, and they didn't want to have a blank year. So, and they thought it'd be distinct to connect, obviously, to that award to what's happening right now this year. So, it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, that's tricky.
So that was pretty much for the meeting. They did report out on our updates January through March and shared all the preservation we've been doing. And that was it.
That's good. So where are the mining cabins being moved to? Because right now they're at our facility, isn't that right?
Yeah, they are. I don't remember. Does anyone else know where they're being moved to?
Are they moving
Yeah,
to the spot or?
they're being moved to Miners Field.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so they're
Yeah.
going to where
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of right in the outfield, at kind of center field there. So it's really a great place because it's almost across the street from where they used to be.
Right. I didn't know if this was like an intermediate move or if this was the final destination move. So that's
Yeah, this is the final destination. We have a contractor, hopefully in, the next weeks, if not month or two, they'll be working on the grading and the foundation, and then they're gonna, I think, take the doors and windows off site to restore, lift the cabins again with the crane, put it on a flatbed and bring them over and set them down on the new foundation. Do the rest of the restoration work there.
Do you know when the date is that they're moving them?
We're still waiting. We could get
Okay.
that date any day. Yeah, they were working out details like irrigation design to relocate the
Right.
irrigation, and that took a while. So we're kind of waiting for them to schedule their subs and give us some final dates.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I think just like the house moving, it'd be fun to know what the actual date ends up being, just so if anybody
Yeah.
can see it.
We're trying to get the word out at least a couple weeks ahead before they actually pick them up and move them, so people can participate and watch.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Chrissy. Was that all of your meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Were there any other updates from commissioners?
Somebody brought up about the ball field sign that was right next to where those cabins are going to go. And I can't remember. I might have already brought this up to the commission, but people were worried they were going to just demolish it. It looked like it just needed a coat of paint. I can't remember if I checked on that or not. Kim or Rob, do you know about that or even what I'm talking about?
Well, I don't know a lot of details. I know they were going to take it down. I don't know that it's operational.
Probably not,
Yeah.
because
So
it's electric and old.
yeah. So I think there was maybe some consideration of donating it, but I don't. Well, why don't we get an update for you and bring
Okay.
that back next time?
Yeah. I'm not advocating for it, but it came up. It's right by there. Thanks.
All right. Our next item, if we don't have any more commissioner updates, is future meetings. Do you have anything we want to make sure we add to our agenda for future meetings?
I'd had, Keith and I and Andrea all tried to work on a list of properties that had been landmarked and also demolished. I'm still writing a monthly blurb for the Downtown Business Association, but as best I can tell, and I'm always going back through city council notes, I don't think we've landmarked a house in a number of months because I'm trying to keep those up to date. But anyway, I wouldn't mind then putting on the agenda ability to make some kind of list like that. I think that was on an earlier table, but maybe restarting that effort. Andrea created some Google tables or spreadsheets, and Keith and I talked about some of the inputs to it, but I think we need to have a little more general buy-in on it.
So you did the demo list. Was there also a landmark list? Because I thought
Yes.
the one that you guys are working on was the demolition.
Yeah, it's the
one.
same list really with just
Okay,
a
so you have
different
the landmark also.
category for each, yeah.
Yeah, and staff
just-
also keeps a list of all the landmarked properties. So they can always,
Well, the one that's
You're just working-
associated with the walking map isn't kept up to date. That was part of
right.
the issue.
What I think we're still trying to figure out how to access and change that also. I think that's
Yeah.
and Kim, you can jump in at any point.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
happy to provide. We do have a list that notes all the resolutions and so all the landmarked properties. And so I believe, unless I'm misspeaking, I think the last residential property to be landmarked was, I believe it was 541 Jefferson, which would have been just, I think that was December of last year. You all saw the grant and alteration certificate this year, but the landmarking was previous. But we do have that. That's up to date. And regarding the online map, I do have access to that now. So that's new. I have the
Okay.
logins. I'm able to do that. And in fact, Bridget Bacon from the museum and we have a meeting, I believe it's in a few days, but it's sometime here in May to talk about what that looks like. She had some pieces of history that would be helpful to go on there and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So I can update you on what that looks like too.
The list
So
of
Gary-
resolutions you're talking about, is that what's on Laserfish? That shows
I-
a summary of what the city council has approved?
So the list we have is literally just a list that would show here's the ones that have been.
It's
I
not
don't
public?
believe it's a list we just create internally, so I don't believe this
see.
particular Word document is public. However, everything that would be landmarked is certainly on Laserfish, and so you could
It is,
see by
yeah.
year which one is on there, what the resolution is. Staff just keeps it so we know as things get approved here what the
Yeah.
list looks like. But I could certainly give you what that list looks like. Not a problem.
Okay.
So Gary, your goal still is to have a list on our website, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be ideal. And it's probably a subset of, I mean, people probably don't care if something was demolished or if somebody started the probable cause process and then dropped it. But that's good information for us to have. I just kind of keep going back every month through city council records and try to see, well, what's happened with 601 Lincoln and that sort of thing, or 829 Jefferson, whatever. So anyway, it's a little awkward right now, and I think we could probably do it better with a little coordination.
Okay. So yeah, I think just having some sort of public list of what has been landmarked, and especially since our map has been not updated, all that kind of stuff. So, and then the
Okay.
demolition, Gary, that list, I think we had talked about being more of a document that we can refer to. We can't,
Yeah.
like, it's
I
not a
agree.
working document or whatever. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm just asking for clarification, just kind of going over that again. And I think that your point was just having that as a understanding of what homes and structures have been demolished,
Mhm.
just so we know, like, if people ask or whatever. Was that kind of
Yeah.
your goal?
Those are some of the statistics we should be able to relate to the city council annually.
Mhm. Have you
Okay.
shared that document with Kim? Does she have access to that? To the demolition?
I think I mentioned that Andrea could give her access.
Okay.
But we can redo that.
Yeah, because that'd probably be a good thing. That might be one of the things that just hasn't been passed on to her yet, but just so she can see it and understand, like, what all the work that you guys have done and kind of how to implement it as far as the commission, because it is very useful information. I think our whole discussion was just trying to figure out how to do it sensitively as far as, who works on it, who has access to it, all that kind of stuff. But it is really good information.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So if you
Now
want to
that
make sure.
Kim's sort of getting up to speed on some of these things, yeah, it's probably the right time to do that.
Right.
Okay.
And then she can kind of make that final decision and figure out how we can handle it. Because we definitely don't want to lose the document. Like, we don't want it to just go away. So, Yeah.
Yeah, I'll connect with Andrea then to get, I think it was a Google Drive link or kind of on the Google
Yeah.
Drive. So I don't believe I have access to it, but I did, Gary, you did tell me about it. So I'll follow up
Yeah.
with that and then I can start looking at that. So I'm up to speed on this particular item too.
Great.
Perfect. That's great. All right. Any other future items we want to discuss? All right. Do you want to make a motion to adjourn for the evening?
We don't have to go out into a snowstorm this month.
Yeah, I know. I know. The rain's not a bad thing to have to stay home for either.
Yeah. I would have moved we adjourn.
All right.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Have a good evening. Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks,
Thanks.
guys.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.